UN did not want to take action to force Saddam to comply with all those many, many times they had told him to. So they held back and held back. At what point does the UN have a responsibility to step back in as the UN and say, well, now we're going to help negotiate this, we're going to work with these people? Instead, they're just completely still out and wait and watching us fry. It's not really a UN, they're not being the UN at all. They're being very much in the corner waiting.
Charles, is this all the UN?
Well, the UN is made out of its members. It can't do anything without its members, and its principal members, well, it's the United States, Russia, China, and if they don't want the UN in, it can't get in itself. There's just no way. The members of the Security Council, or at least the permanent members, have got to be bring the UN or ask the UN in, and then supply it with the funds necessary so it can do something. And in this case, I suggest that the Gulf Council give a lot of money in. We would have to too. Going back to the sense of Congress vote, I think this is not binding on President Bush. I'm worried, and I haven't reread the authorization to go into Iraq in the first place. But what I am worried about, as indicated, is Iran. Have you had a chance to review that authorization? Is there any way you can stretch it to get into Iran?
Well, I think if you read the literal interpretation of the resolution, it actually says very little about using American troops to basically broker peace in an emerging civil war.
Yeah.
I mean, the resolution is constructed, the resolution that was adopted in October 2002 is a resolution that is written specifically to give the American military or the president the power to enforce the UN resolutions and deal with Saddam as a threat. All right, so we're talking about enforcing UN resolutions, we're talking about dealing with Saddam. There is some vague language in there that deals with some other attendant issues, but the thrust of the resolutions all deal with that. Senator Warner in the fall, this past fall, before the elections, was openly making comments that he believed, as chairman of Armed Services, that the resolutions themselves did not give the commander-in-chief or did not really authorize, fully authorize a broader set of military engagement. In fact, when with testimony before his committee suggested that the war was turning into a civil war, he openly said that, as far as he was concerned, he did not believe the resolutions sufficiently authorized the president to use troops for the purposes of dealing with a civil war. So if you take it another step further, I'm not sure what the engagement would be with Iran, but I think, quite frankly, if we're using military troops in some way to engage that country, that would even be way outside the bounds of the language in that resolution.
Yeah, just one quick point. The congressional experts here know more than I do, but no one's mentioned the War Powers Resolution, which is equally ineffective. But it's the one tool that the Congress has had for years to stop a president from going to war on his own. It has, of course, a clause that at least after, 30 days, 60 days, the president has to come back and get clearance from Congress. But there is a piece of legislation that all presidents, unfortunately, have ignored because they consider it an attack on executive powers. There's one other thing no one's mentioned, which is the presidential signing statement. Do you happen to know what this president's signing statement was for that resolution?
No, I don't, but that's an excellent point. I'm sure he wrote something that gave him...
Well, he probably said this is great, but if one came on Iran, and it was a preclusive sort of statement, a sense of the Congress, that the United States should not attack Iran without a complete national debate, etc., etc. Signing statement could well indicate that, yes, but the president's powers go far beyond the scope of this legislation, blah, 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 blah. So there are some congressional tricks that even us citizens out here in the boondocks have noticed that enforce and reinforce the incredible powers in Article 2 of the United States Constitution. Congress is Article 1, but doesn't seem to be able to make that point, that the President is the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. The Congress has only the power of the purse and census of the Congress. At least that's my understanding.
But the Constitution gives the Congress the power to declare war. I mean,
Yeah, but
it's...
that hasn't been done since, as someone said, the Egyptians haven't won a war since the second act of Aida.
I understand that, but if we're talking constitutional powers, though.
It's a long time.